Welcome to No, This Is Not About Lions. I'm your host, Shirin from House, Finland. Today, we have a very special episode for you. We have a South African minister who's been helping to shape the digital future in country and an ambassador, EU ambassador, who's been in South Africa for years. Together, we're going to try to delete a few myths and see where the conversation will take us. Ambassador Kramer, Minister Malatsi, welcome.
Thank you.
It's really good to have you both here today with us. Just a bit about the podcast, why we started this. So I have been in South Africa for 2.5 years now as part of the EU and African Union Data Governance in Africa. We work with startups, mostly in digital space. And when they were visiting Europe and we were trying to get more European investment interested in the companies, we got quite a lot of outdated image of Africa. We had things like pity capital. We got discourse around whether Africa needs investment or saving. So we thought, okay, let's, address it in this platform and talk more about digitalization, innovation, and private sector opportunities. Now, Ambassador, you've been in South Africa for nearly 4 years, and your term is coming to an end.
Yes.
Unfortunately. What is one thing, maybe a myth or something that surprised you about South Africa when you came here?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and thanks, Minister, for being here. It's really important to us. And to come back to what you said, what I found in my 4 years is wherever I go, there are so many connections between South Africa and the European Union. There's NGOs, there's civil society organizations, there's students, there's people that have been doing programs that are funded by the EU. Sometimes they don't even know it's funded by the EU. But wherever I go, there are really all across South Africa organizations and people that somehow we connect. And with we, I mean our embassy of the European Union, but I also mean the member states. 22 member states out of the 27 are based here in South Africa. So we're a big family. And I think the impact of the people-to-people relations that we have is very profound. And I thought that was one of the things that really struck me most.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, as I said, I've been 2.5 years here. And one of the things that really strike me the most is how digital Africa is, and especially South Africa. Minister, you are covering digitalization portfolio. What is one thing you wish that when Europeans hear South Africa that they think of?
That we're really a modern economy. I think there's a lot of stereotypes and myths about what first the continent of Africa represents and even South Africa. But the reality is that, broadband connectivity in South Africa is on par, for instance, with many parts of the world. Yes, we still have challenges with regards to connectivity in rural areas and stuff. But you look in terms of, South Africa's impact in innovation, in technology, and even the contributions that South African-born innovators are making in global platforms, including our academia. It shows that we're not a jungle, contrary to some misplaced, misperceptions. And I think it's the realization that I wish more and more people, particularly Europeans, could just realize the wealth of talent that exists in our country.
Yeah. So there is no lions running around in the streets, right?
No, none at all.
Yeah. And I like the point you mentioned about the innovation, because when we had the startups that we took to Europe with us to participate in the events, they were saying that some of their innovation is actually as good, if not even better, because of the lack of resources when they were comparing kind of themselves with the European innovation. So for me, that was actually something interesting to realize, that we actually didn't think about that part, that how, different innovations from different continents, they're actually very similar.
Oh, yeah.
But
Absolutely.
And around digitalization as well, when I first came here, it was so incredible to see some of the fintech solutions South Africa brings. We still have banks in the heart of Europe where we have, those old school, the what do you call it, the card readers, where you put the ATM card in it and then you access your account. And here you just
that's
basically...
the only way you can transact?
No, there is other banks, but what I mean is it was quite surprising how advanced the South African, for example, you go to your FNB account and you do geo payment, which is pretty advanced. So
yeah, and again, it just speaks to the scale of the innovation, and it's whether in fintech, in agriculture, even in healthcare, that you are seeing those inroads. And I think for me, the pride that I see in the scale of this innovation emerging out of South Africa is that the only difference with a tech entrepreneur or a budding innovator from South Africa and Europe and the US is access to market. In the superiority of innovations transcends geography. And that's the common thing that we're realizing. It's just about platforming, obviously, and being an environment where you are able to take a solution that has an agricultural impact into a much more bigger audience that will grow the business.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. That's why it's so important to create the Continental Free Trade Area, for example, and to think regionally and think to enhance cross-border trade and make sure that we focus on that to make those markets bigger and make them more attractive and make also Africa more connected.
And I think maybe from that going to investment. So we had the Finnish Prime Minister was one of our guests here, and he mentioned that how South African companies are investing in Finland. That, of course, creates more job opportunities. We all how it works. And then it surprised a lot of people, including myself as well. And we're thinking, why is there not as much as discussion around, Africans investing in Europe or the other way around, Europe investing in Africa? Why do you think that discourse is so very different?
It goes back a little bit to what Minister said. I think investment is always a two-way street, however you look at it. And yes, there's many South African companies investing in Europe. And there's also many European companies investing in South Africa. There are 1,700 European companies that are based in South Africa, 1,700 companies that work here, that employ people, that see a business case of being in South Africa. And over the past few years, we've seen hundreds of companies setting their foot here, investing here. And this is not just trading, it's not just selling and buying goods. An investment really is a long-term commitment to a market where you see a future and where you see potential. And that is what a lot of European companies see. And I think that is a very good, let's say, thermometer as to the health of the relationship between the European Union and South Africa.
That's a lot, 1,700.
It is, yes, it is.
Minister, anything to add to that?
Yeah, look, I always avoid simple generalizations, right? But I think it all lies in realizing when a large part of the world, when it thinks about South Africa, the first and most prominent thing, it's about South Africa's peaceful transition into democracy. Right? And the reality is we are much more than that. And that's why you will see footprints of South African companies all over the world, be it in technology, be it in mining, be it even in agriculture. South African agricultural products, are all over. And one of the focus currently is opening up that European market for agricultural products even more. But I think it also just takes, a level of curiosity about trying to know more about the country and going, much more deeper than just what's on the surface.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of outdated prejudices. I think that's what we're talking about. Outdated ideas of what Africa or South Africa is about.
It's a very diplomatic way of putting it.
I am a diplomat, Minister.
There's also ignorance.
That's also there, but I'm trying to, in my last few weeks, be a diplomat.
So you've been here now 4 years. What would be one thing that you would export from South Africa to Europe? And no wine, no biltong, not products, but something else. What would be something that you would export?
The entrepreneurship that we were discussing. I think it comes down to the determination of people in South Africa. They are a resilient bunch of people, a very optimistic, and that sense of humor and that resilience. If I could export that, that would be a very good business. That and Amapiano, please.
Okay.
And Minister, what would you export?
Look, I mean, I totally agree with, the character of South African people, that we are resilient. And if you thrive in South Africa, you can thrive anywhere in the world. But you also know how to have fun,
You do.
Yeah, less me, but many South Africans know how to have fun, yeah.
Does that include the braai culture or?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's just the spirit of togetherness.
Yeah.
It's such an important thing that is ingrained in our culture and in how we relate with each other. And I think it's historically linked to see what South Africa has overcome was through unity, so the level of support, South Africans show up for each other, in unmeasurable ways. And that's a very important thing, because even though we live in this global world, there is an increasing drive towards a lot of, individualism that is key. And a lot of nations lose, that cohesion simply because there isn't a drive towards national unity.
Is that like Ubuntu then? Or
yeah, I mean, it relates to it. I mean, Ubuntu also is about selflessness. The recognition that you need other people, for your own being to thrive. So that's a very important aspect to it. But there are other ingredients that make Ubuntu again to be such a compelling force that unites many South Africans. Is the knowledge that you can lean on your neighbor or your colleague, and that manifests itself even into our approach to foreign policy, for instance, our approach towards international trade. All of that is ingrained in the recognition that we all need each other, and we are stronger when we are united.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think for me, it would be the vets. You guys have the best vets in that, experienced in
Wow.
Finland, in other places. It's really top class.
Interesting.
Maybe there's just so many species, and maybe that could be
There's
it.
a solution for everyone.
Exactly.
We are a diverse country.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's be a little bit controversial. Capacity building. Now, in development circles, we talk a lot about capacity building and that Africa needs capacity building. True, not true, it's complicated. Ambassador?
Well, everybody needs capacity building. Let's put it this way. The world is changing all the time. We need capacity building to deal with AI. We need capacity building all the time. But I think I just talk a little bit more about what you said about the development community. That's, I think, where we start to go wrong.
Yeah.
Because we start to think still in this idea of this development logic. I think we should move to an investment logic. Yeah. We are talking about an investment logic. I don't think Africa needs that development thinking. I think Africa needs investment. I think Europe needs investment. And I think we're finding each other there in a big way. And I think that is a very different logic, which very much focuses on equality and mutual interests. And I think that's the story that we need to focus on. So it's complicated.
It's complicated. Yeah, 100%, as South Africans would say.
100%.
Look, I think in developmental lexicon, there's just been certain phrases that, over time have become to justify certain actions, right? Capacity building means that somebody has to, be a provider, and then there must be a recipient, right? Yeah. But if you see the evolution of the development of countries, we're now in the era where it's about partnerships, because we both have something to offer towards each other. And I don't think you'll meet any country in the developing world that is saying that we've got nothing to offer. And that is a very important thing, because it requires also a different approach to how we see potential partners. Because if it's only just about limited to investments, you're saying, okay, we can only just be recipient of, these humanitarian elements of intervention in society. And we've got little to offer, and that isn't the case. And because we've proven ourselves through our stable democracy, through, our stable economy, through the presence that we are having in different global markets and the influence therein. So my thing would be, we are now in the era of partnerships because everyone has something concrete to truly offer.
Yeah. No, and I think also what Ambassador, you mentioned is that, especially in the investment side, so we work a lot with the private sector in the development scene. Somehow it's like combined, and they said we don't need all these training, we need access to market. We don't need the capacity building, but we need access to market, and this access to market has come very, very strongly within the private sector, and this is something that you mentioned also earlier. Yeah,
because the reality of the matter is what guarantees growth, right? It's access to bigger markets, so that you can produce and scale and have a wider outreach. For as long as you're able to innovate and there's boundless, levels of that, it showcases that there is capacity.
Yeah.
But I think then the missing trick is how do we then commercialize that and sustainably? And that's something that impacts a lot of, SMMEs in our country, where you see that there is a unique product offering. The challenge then becomes about the sustainability. But it also goes both ways, because capacity building also means building the capacity to understand the environment that you are in and the people that you're going to interact in. So that it's not this kind of like superiority complex of saying that, we know it all, we have all the answers, and we are here to teach you how to do things.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I feel like at least my capacity is being built here in Africa in so many different angles.
And breaking needs.
Yeah. Right. Just before we finish up, we have a little quick fire round. So you have 3 papers in front of you, yes, no, and it's complicated. I'm going to read a couple of statements and you can just choose what you think. Is it no, yes, or it's complicated?
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Ready.
All right. Africa is difficult to invest in. Okay.
No.
No? Good. We're on the same page. Africa doesn't need saving, it needs investment. Okay. Care to a quick one.
It goes back to the concept I spoke about, partnerships, right? Because investment can be misconstrued to be a one-way, approach. So, yes, we need investment, but those investments are about building partnerships.
Okay, makes sense. Europe needs Africa as much as Africa needs Europe.
Very much, yes.
Okay, both is yes. All right, good.
No divergence.
100%. 100%.
Okay, this next one is my favorite, though. Next 2. African time is real. You can just, whatever.
I'm complicated.
Oh my God, are you serious? Yes. I know I'm on that time lately.
I'm a stickler for punctuality. So I just think that, we get so used to things that are unacceptable and justify them because, they're applicable to so many people. I don't think late coming is an African concept.
Not at all.
Yeah. It's disrespectful, actually.
Exactly, and it happens everywhere in the world.
Exactly.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
It's complicated. Okay, last one. The ambassador should stay in South Africa. Oh, okay, so you both agree, huh? Yes, it was yes.
Or maybe...
It's complicated.
If only it was your call.
If only it was my call.
Yeah.
Exactly, Minister. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, Minister, for being here with us today. I hope we managed to delete 1 or 2 myths. And, Africa is not just about lions, and Europe is not only about maybe meetings and capacity building. And Africa is definitely not sitting around to be saved. Thank you again.
Thank you.
This is not about lions. I'm your host, Shirin from House, Finland. Thank you for listening.
This podcast is part of the Data Governance in Africa initiative, helping the African Union shape data policies, enable cross-border data flows, and build secure, sustainable digital infrastructure. Funded by the EU and 5 member states, it supports a unified digital market in Africa.